broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of Gun Guy Radio is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to episode 259 of Gun Guy Radio. This is a podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Jake Challen, with co-host Zach Carlson. This is your dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. Hey, Zach.
Hey, how's it going?
So we were just, looking back here, and there was an episode I forgot to post for like 6 months, so my bad.
Yep, the lost episode, I believe you called it.
Yeah, so sorry about that. But if you're tuning in, thanks for tuning in. If this is your first time, I am so sorry. But Patriot Patch Company does make this episode possible. Check out Patriot Patch of the Month Club. Unique patch, sticker, and artwork cards sent to your mailbox every month. PatriotPatch.co. We have a bunch of new designs up on the site as well, so check it out. New 4 Rules of Gun Safety cleaning mat, and you can also get that as a sign, sticker, patch, all about the 4 rules of gun safety. And I have a story about the 4 rules of gun safety not being followed later on in the episode.
Ooh. Does it involve a Serpa holster or anything?
It involves an SCCY pistol chambered in .40 caliber, if that can tell you anything.
Ooh. Okay, that's like the gun equivalent of the Serpa holster, so okay, whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. You can check out Zach on YouTube. He quit that, like most other things a long time ago, but there's still videos up.
I was talking to a guy that was doing a review for Lone Wolf stuff, and he sent me his, video links, and man, he had, I think, actually less followers than I did, but his video production was so much better than mine, because there is no video production on my videos. It's just literally, whatever comes off the camera basically goes right in there. There's nothing. And I kind of felt bad. I was like, man, his are way, way better. And, because I only did it when I was doing magazine articles, and it was, you're out there shooting for the article to write the article, but it's like, why not get some dual use out of it and throw a video up there? But I kind of made me want to go back and put a little effort in, but then I quickly got over that.
Well, I've thought about making some different kinds of video content. And you're right, there's some YouTube channels out there that have great content. Seems like they have everything going for them as far as what they're putting out, but their views compared to other channels is just, they're not making money. Like some of these channels you can tell they're putting a lot of money into it. They have to, with the things they're reviewing or the equipment they're using or both. And that really is discouraging. Like you could throw in tens of thousands of dollars into a high quality YouTube channel and never get viewers.
Yeah. And the real sad thing with YouTube is most of the videos are limited monetization. So if they would have taken that talent, like if you can edit a video and you have talent at that and have the equipment to do it, you could redirect your focus into non-gun content and get full monetization and make a decent living. Like I've thought about it, like, man, I should get back into cars. Cause you send me all these links to channels and I just get hooked and I watch them all the time. And I'm like, guy's just rolling in it and he's buying junk cars. I'm like, Jake already buys junk cars.
Right. Well,
no.
That
skill of editing. And I don't have that skill of editing at all.
Well, no. And that's why I'm even talking about non-gun channels. Like it's real hit or miss. Anyways, we're not here to talk about YouTube. We're here to talk about the 10 years of Gun Guy Radio.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, I didn't get you anything.
What is our 10 years? A diamond? Is that what you're supposed to get me?
I got you a diamond encrusted silencer.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know what it's supposed to be, but yeah, we started this 10 years ago, and man, it's been a long, wild ride, and we're not going to talk about the couple of years we took off. Yeah, it started off as just gun talk between, Zach, myself, and friends, just shooting the breeze. Zach was fairly new and working in the gun industry. And before that, Zach and I had always hung out and shot and listened to gun podcasts on our own. And
that's what I was thinking of. Like, what was the spark here? And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was the Gun Dudes, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely was the Gun Dudes. And I think if a lot of people go back and listen to the early Gun Dudes episodes that we were listening to, they'd probably be like, what? but maybe not. Maybe they're like the We Like Shooting of that time. But I mean, for us, it was great entertaining and got us thinking about doing, we started doing IDPA and a little IPSC and stuff like that. And so it got us more involved in doing stuff and doing more of the right stuff, rather than just kind of blindly going out after our hobby.
Are the gun dudes still around? That is a question.
I don't even know. I don't listen to podcasts anymore. Like,
well, you don't commute. You have that whole
right.
Working from your home thing. I don't see it in a podcast search, so maybe not.
Right, and I don't really have a lot of mindless work. That's the other. I was a postal carrier for 13 years, so you have hours and hours and hours of mindless work that's repetitive, and you don't have to think about it. And so it's really easy to listen to podcasts then, or even think up your own podcasts, and that's kind of how it evolved for me.
Yeah, I still kind of remember when you said, like, I'm going to start a podcast network, and you're like, okay. It's like, because you got to remember, 10 years ago, like, there was no, well, Joe Rogan was out, but it wasn't like he is today. Like, podcasts were not a everyday household thing. Like, it was still nerd culture, basically.
Yeah, and it's totally mainstream now. As far as the firearms podcast, it's much more mainstream, but I don't know. The firearms industry is so weird. It's still hard to get a lot of companies to wrap their head around podcasts, although there are firearms industry companies doing their own podcast now, which you didn't ever see back then. Anyway, so it kind of morphed into me doing industry interviews on the show with, the likes of Arlie Ermy, Pete Breno, Michael Bain, Jesse James, Stephen Hunter, and many, many more, and did that for several years, and then mixed in, podcasts with Zach and other friends on the network, and, we launched the Firearms Radio Network off of it and everything, and this show morphed back into just me and Zach. But yeah, Gun Guy Radio started all, the whole Firearms Radio Network, which now is owned and ran by Sean Herron, of course, of We Like Shooting. And Zach and I do this maybe twice a year now, so...
Yeah, it's just, whenever, big milestones come up. And I did look it up. It's tin or aluminum. So was lead count? You can just send me ammo if you want.
Tin or aluminum. That's so, I could send you some, aluminum cased ammo.
Okay, great. Nothing but the best. But, when you say friends, like, I remember it wasn't, God, I'm like Hank and,
yeah. And Mike.
Yep. Mike. Yeah. Yep. And, Steve?
And Steve, Steve from he was on the AR-15 podcast about a bunch of stuff. Steve and Reed. I started AR-15 podcast with Reed, and then This Week in Guns. Steve Remy, he was on there a lot, and
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and then there's a bunch of cool stuff we used to do. I mean, This Week in Guns was such a fun podcast for me to do back in the day. Just so many cool people on it. Anyways, so yeah, 10 years. Zach, I don't know if you know this, but I tried to find them, but I think the first 50 or so episodes of Gun Guy Radio are lost forever.
Oh no. Are they not on Libsyn or anything anymore?
They probably are, but I'm not going to take the time to track them down. They should still be on our server, but they're not available to the public anywhere that I can tell, because like the show notes, everything was deleted at some point. I don't know what happened. I have a theory. I know iTunes started cracking down on commercial music being used on podcasts, and
you were big on that for a while.
Yeah,
you had bumper musics in and out of every set. I do remember that. Yeah, the feed that it shows up in podcast players starts at episode 60. So yeah, we're losing quite a few there. Yeah, I think because that's the RSS feed. I think you can set that manually. So if you didn't, then they're probably missing somewhere.
Well, yeah, the RSS feed pulls off the show notes. So if they're not there, they're not going to be showing up in anyone's feed. But if I really cared, I could find them on the server, and I don't know.
It's probably better that they're not out there.
It really is.
Those first ones.
Because their very first one, was, we talked about the Arsenal Double 1911.
Well, that took off and became super popular.
And I believe the bumper song that started off that first episode was like "Eye of the Tiger" or something.
Yeah, I do remember you had bumper music in and out of every like segment of the show, and you put a lot of thought into it. You made them like pertinent to it. I mean, it was totally copyright infringement, but you did have it. You did put thought into it.
Hey, it's freedom of expression or what?
Fair use.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, I mean, really, we were promoting them, so they should be thanking us.
Right?
Really.
I know, right? I mean, you're welcome.
Typical Hollywood.
So did it, I'm sure everyone's asking us, 10 years of professional podcasting, are we internet famous now?
Well, you're probably way more famous. I do remember walking down the SHOT Show floor not that long ago, a couple years ago, I mean, pre-COVID, and I was walking behind a couple guys, and they turned around and said, "Are you Zach from the Gun Guy Radio?" Because they recognized my voice. So, hey, I got one recognition in 10 years, and hey, that makes up for it all.
It's all worth it, One random person knows who you are now.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me if I'm putting this on my resume, probably not.
Oh, come on. It's mainstream now. You got 10 years of podcasting under your belt. That is like a big badge on LinkedIn, I think.
Ooh, oh, yeah. I could be like a LinkedIn influencer.
Yeah. So did we become rich?
You did. You have a whole homestead and everything. You got guns and you got ammo that you don't even know you had until you reopened it. Looks like you had a bow case back there. You got enough to afford a bow, maybe?
Well, I was really hoping that, podcasting and the network would start off into something and advertising dollars would roll in and, I could quit my day job because of that. But it turns out, most people don't make money in podcasting.
Well, I think most mainstream podcasts can make money, like comedy podcasts and stuff that's marketable to mass appeal. And like, I listen to a lot of tech podcasts, and they're like sponsored by Capital One and like big,
right.
Big, huge names. So it's like, you got to have a more, people are still scared of the gun side of it, I guess. But I think the difference was you were too early, I think, which, you can't control that. But you're always looking for a way to get out of the postal carrier stuff. Everything you did, it seemed like you were doing it for either, debt reduction or to quit your day job. And you just had to keep trying stuff till something stuck.
Right. Yeah. I had a couple failed business attempts and Podcast and Network, you guys listening, I think you really did help launch Patriot Patch Company for me and Ryan Cross. I mean, it seemed to start taking off pretty well, pretty quick, which I'm very thankful for.
What year did that start, by the way?
So that was 2015.
I mean, 7 years in, how can you complain? I mean, that definitely got you going. And that company did allow you to quit your day job, right?
Well, no. That I started that after I quit the post office. So I started my Amazon liquidation business, which
that's right.
I found out how to do by listening to podcasts. I started that in 2014, and that took off, and I was able to tell my boss to take this job and shove it. And then, we're doing the podcast thing already, and I thought, well, maybe patches, because Ryan and I had worked on a couple artwork type things, T-shirts and stuff. And
he did all the artwork for the shows, right?
Well, he did Ryan did all the artwork for the network back in the day, and these designs are so good. There's got to be some medium we can put it into that, we can market to the gun world. And so Patriot Patch took off.
Yeah. And you already had Amazon experience from doing the liquidation stuff, which I actually forgot about that whole retail arbitrage you did for a while.
Yeah.
I still remember you saying you had like trailer loads of like baby toys or something. You had bought like whatever clearance was at a baby store, and you literally had multiple trailer loads full of it.
Well, I took like 8 or 10 Suburban loads out of that place, and it was just crazy. You can't do that anymore. Liquidation has changed so much for Amazon, and I don't. Other than like looking for fun, if I happen to be someplace, I don't do liquidation whatsoever anymore. We do sell some Patriot Patch stuff on Amazon, but really, like Amazon isn't like the bread and butter for the patch business. So it's a nice addition, but.
Well, you've always had the entrepreneurial spirit and the not afraid of the risk as much. So, I'm more risk adverse than you are, and you just would go after just by anything. I mean, you had a successful landscaping company. You didn't know about landscaping at first, but you made it work, and you learned it all and did it all.
Well, don't sell yourself short. I mean, the whole reason you got your job is because you started your own online gun accessory business.
Yes, but I didn't have any responsibilities at that point. I just knew I hated that job and I wanted to get out of it. And my parents let me use their shed and live in their basement. So, it's not exactly apples to apples, but, and actually I really lucked out because I started that, I think in April. I left the job in like June or July or maybe it was August. It might have been August. And I was working for Lone Wolf by October or Labor Day weekend. So I think that's 10. I think it was 10/4 is my first day. So like I didn't have to really struggle or use that money to make a real living and, fund a family and a life like you were doing. You had a lot more responsibility at that point.
I guess I forgot about the whole living in your parents' basement. Yeah.
You helped me move the shed. We had to literally move the shed, 20 feet because it was in the wrong spot in the yard. And, we had to convert it, move it.
Right.
That
photo came up in my memories a while back of you and your brother standing by the shed.
Yeah. And what he's referring to is we rented a Bobcat. So my parents had a shed, like a 24-foot shed, I think, 24 by 12 or something like that. And it was on these piers, but the piers were sinking. And so it was kind of weird. And so the doors, started getting a little weird and everything. And we wanted to move it by the house to get it better and put it on the skid foundation. So we rented a Bobcat that came with an equipment trailer. So then we jacked up the shed to get it as high and cribbed it up with 2x4s and all everything, drove the equipment trailer's trailer underneath it, used it to move it, and then used this Bobcat to move it all around and everything. It was a little sketchy of an operation, but Jake came over and helped and we got it, and that was the home of American Gun Works, and it did, I guess it is the same way as you. It actually gave me a little bit of credibility, gave me an income stream, got me going, and got me a Lone Wolf job. So, yeah. And I probably wouldn't have done that without the podcast network as well.
Yeah.
No, I did that before the podcast network. I did that after, yeah.
That was before, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we didn't start Gun Guy Radio until you were in Washington State.
Yeah. I was in Idaho.
Or Idaho, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you do things backwards. You went from Idaho to Washington State.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm well aware.
Anyways, Zach and I want to thank you all for listening for all these years. I mean, maybe some of you have listened 10 years.
I think Mark Hookham probably did.
Yeah, I think so. Mark, appreciate it. And everyone else has listened and sent emails, and I apologize for not returning emails, but we do have some emails that we go through here sometime. Good time, good 10 years, and we'll talk about maybe if there's some future of the show here at the end of the show. Anyway, Zach, so let's talk about some recent stuff. So you've been disappointed with some optics?
Yeah, so it's been a while since we talked, I think. So, basically, you know how you're chasing that dragon always in optics and everything, or just gun stuff in general. And I was like, I'm gonna put a little money into this stuff today. So I basically have 3 AR-15s that I use like consistently. Those are my ones that I don't plan on selling, that are they're my good rotation. I've got an 11.5-inch gun. That's kind of a Franken build, but it's nice. And then I have a Mark 18 Daniel Defense upper with a SBR lower, so it's real SBR. I actually like it so far. And then I have a 16-inch lightweight rifle. No suppressor, no nothing. The others are all suppressed. This one I wanted to keep super light. And so I've just been playing kind of musical chairs with optics. And, everybody's like, oh, LVPOs and everything. And I'm like, I just don't like the weight. I had a 1:6 Vortex on loan a while back for an article, and it was nice. It was clear, but it felt heavy to me. And I just kept going back to the ACOGs, right? The 4-power ACOGs. People complain about the eye relief and everything, and it's never been a big issue to me. The glass is super clear. It's super light. I tried going with a LED powered ACOG, and I just didn't like the weight it gave me. It was nice otherwise. But I sold that and I went back to a regular ACOG. So I was doing that for a while, and and it's slow because it's magnified. So I'm like, okay, let me put a red dot on it, and did all that. And then I had this other gun that had just a red dot on it. Just a, Hollow Sun Aimpoint T1 style, optic. So when I did the Mark 18, I'm like, I want this one with an EOTech. I haven't had an EOTech in a long, long time. And I remember them always being very pixelated because the laser, reticle is kind of pixelated. And I kind of read that, if you're looking at the reticle, it's going to look pixelated. But if you look through it, look at the target, it becomes clear. So I gave it a shot. I ordered a EXPS3, put it on the Mark 18, and I took it to the range against a gun that had just a regular, that Holosun style red dot on it. And I was definitely faster, and it was easier to pick up. I was faster, and I was like, okay, this is a thing. So I really do like the EOTech. I'm going to keep this. So EOTech, thumbs up. I'm good. Then I was like, okay, if that red dot is slower, then I should go to the ACOG. To the ACOG, and ACOG is really nice, but you do kind of need a red dot for really close, because that, the whole binding aiming concept where they say if you keep both eyes open, it should, superimpose and act like a red dot. For my eyes or my brain, it doesn't always work unless I cap the objective on the ACOG. Once you block the ACOG, then it pops into my brain and in my vision, no problem. But if you have time to do that, then what's the point, So I thought, okay, well, let me try magnifiers. That's the one combination that I haven't done, was a red dot plus a magnifier. So I just ordered them, and I just got them this week. And so I haven't shot them yet. So this is kind of preemptive, but I ordered a Holosun magnifier, which is cheap. It's a 3-power magnifier. It's cheap. I got it, and I'm like, they make a titanium version as well. That's a little more expensive. Ooh. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to hold for a minute. Let me just get the aluminum one and just see how they go. So I get it, and I put it behind a Holosun red dot, and it's pretty awesome. Like, wow, this is pretty cool. And it, I kept thinking, everybody says it magnifies your dot to a bigger dot because, you're putting it behind a red dot. So 3x magnification on a 2 MOA dot will make it a 6 MOA dot. Well, that is true, but it also magnifies the background of what you're looking at as well. So they're in relation to each other. They're both growing at the same rate. So it kind of still covers the same amount of target as you would have expected it just being by itself. So it kind of was a misnomer in my head when I heard people say that. So I was kind of excited, and I was like, okay, well, at the same time I ordered that Holosun, I also ordered an EOTech 5-power magnifier. This not brand new, but like fairly new, very expensive. I think the retail on it is like $715, and the Holosun is like $2 something, I want to say. So I was like, okay, well, if the Holosun at $200 is this good, this $700 optic is going to just be, just tantalizingly good. And I got it in the next day after the Holosun showed up, and I put it on my EOTech, and it's okay. It's just okay. Like, it blows up the ring so big because it's 5-power that it almost looks comical in the view. The dot is okay. I mean, the dot, and that's the thing they say on the laser is that the EOTech laser really is less than a 1 MOA dot because it's laser. Your brain just interprets that as a 1 MOA size, but then when you magnify it, it stays at 1 MOA. And that was the whole thing and how it was really cool. I don't really see the difference in the dot size, to be totally honest with you, between a 3-power and a 5-power EOTech, EOTech versus Holosun. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have this really expensive EOTech magnifier behind this EOTech that I like, and it's like, well, do I just go buy another Holosun and maybe get the titanium fancy version for the Mark 18 since it's a pretty pricey gun?
Well, people would argue that, well, with the Holosun, you're not getting the durability that you're getting with the EOTech.
And that's probably true, but that EOTech is gargantuan compared to the Holosun.
Is it?
I took pictures I put both of them on a spare upper I had, just a stripped upper, and it feels like it's twice as wide. It's about the same length, but it's a lot taller. It's just chunkier. And yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's made in America. It's got all the other good qualities to it, and I don't have any doubts about it. But also, maybe it's because I bought the 5X version, but because it also does look like you're kind of looking through a tunnel a little bit. You can definitely tell the field of view limitation you get when you look through the 5X versus a 3X. But I took it to my office, and I was looking at the parking lot and looking at the trees out in the park, across the street, and I had my EOTech with the magnifier and the Holosun and its magnifier and an ACOG. And I was just looking putting the left side of my window on a tree and then seeing how far I could see over to the right on each one. And man, the ACOG is really difficult to beat. It is crystal clear. It's got a wide field of view, beautiful reticles, the bullet drop compensations, all that's built into it. And it's just man, that's really tough to beat. But then the magnifier with the Holosun on it was pretty darn close. And then the EOTech was okay, but you definitely didn't have the field of view to it. And the whole package is very heavy when you start putting the EOTech and the magnifier together. The weight of it is up there.
Well, and the other devil's advocate here would be, you're buying those Chinese optics for World War III. China's just going to flip a switch and shut all those off.
Well, yeah, that is possible, I suppose. Well, a good thing I have the ACOG, I guess, then. No batteries, no electronics in there. But so what I think I did, what I think I'm going to end up with is just the Mark 18 with an EOTech alone. Don't need a magnifier, or maybe a Holosun magnifier is the cheap one. Just when I want to, like, they're really nice, I would think, for sighting in. That's what I was really excited for, is like getting sighted in,
right.
Really getting resolution with my adjustments and getting it perfect. And then when you're back to 1x, you're better for it. But the ACOG with a piggybacked RMR, everybody says it's too hokey, too tall. You're doing a chin weld and everything. But then I was reading some people saying, like, well, really, if you're looking through your right eye on the ACOG, you can just rotate the gun left until the RMR aligns with your left eye. And it's almost like an offset RMR on the other side on a separate mount. I've only dry fired it. I haven't taken it to the range yet, but it does actually work. So that might be a good compromise where you get kind of best of both worlds. It's lighter. I don't think it's cheaper but the ACOGs are a little expensive, but I think that might be the way to go for that kind of intermediate setup. And then maybe just keep the Holosun red dot with the Holosun magnifier on that last gun, and that might be the way to go. The disappointment part was just, you have all these expectations, these good expectations. Like, you're putting good money on these products and you get them and you're just like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not great. And I don't know if I would have felt that way if I would have got the EOTech first and I didn't get the Holosun. Like, I think it was because I got them a day after each other and I compared them back to back. So I don't know. I'm assuming other people kind of experience this too. And, the other thing I was kind of disappointed with is, I ordered some stuff from Brownells and it took forever to ship. And it took forever to even get an order confirmation email. Like, it was like 2 or 3 days before I even got an email confirming my order that I had placed. And then it took a couple more days after that to even say it shipped. The tracking number never worked. And then it just arrived and I got an email saying it arrived. So I ordered stuff from Arasaka and Brownells on the same day. I got the Arasaka stuff in my hand in a couple days, and the Brownells took over a week or a week and a half? It was
that's unusual.
Kind of weird.
It's unusual for Brownells, though.
Yeah, I would have thought. I would have assumed, but yeah, it just was a weird thing. And I also bought, these guns. You get a little. They all have Surefire lights on them. And the pressure pad for it on the top rail is pretty long. And I'm like, I'm going to try those mod buttons. So the mod light makes these little plastic buttons that are, like the size of maybe 3 pick slots, maybe something like that, little like postage stamp styles. And I quickly put them on and you put like a nut in a little receiver, then you use a long bolt and you screw them together and it clamps it. And it's 3 pieces. It's the center piece with the switch and then 2 little pick rail clamps, and I was tightening them, and I never felt like it was getting tight, and I was like, this is weird, so I just kind of did it, and then I did the second one that came from my other gun, and I did it, and all of a sudden I went and I had pulled the nut all the way through that clamp and broke the plastic, and then I'm like, oh, that's weird, because there was no paperwork in there or anything, like nothing explaining anything. Well, then I went and looked at the bag that it came in, because it came in one of those like Napa parts store, sealed bags. And it said instructions here, and I scanned the QR code, and the first thing that pops up says the torque is 5 inch-pounds, and if you break it from over torquing, it's not covered by warranty. So I was like, oh, well. So I think I have to email them and ask them hat in hand to send me another pick rail piece, because I clearly did not read the instructions before trying to install the part. I mean, why do I need instructions? It's 2 bolts and 2 nuts. Like, how difficult can this be?
No, I'm right there with you. I would have done the same.
I think they should put the torque on the bag, so whether you click the QR code or not, you're still covered. But hey, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, just that. So it was also kind of disappointing, because you see these mod buttons, you see all the stuff on Instagram and like these advertisements that make everything look like, oh, you have to be the coolest, you're only the coolest operator if you have this thing. And I buy into it sometimes. I'm just a stupid American consumer like everybody else. And so I order the thing and it shows up and it's just like, it's just plastic, and it felt kind of chintzy, to be honest with you. I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is it. And then of course I broke it. So I don't know. It's just a kind of disappointments all around. So I don't know.
Your gun collecting is settling down, you noted?
Yeah, I think that was kind of summed up with those 3 main rifles. You know, I used to churn stuff a lot, and I think those I've pretty much settled down. I've got a couple guns like that are, you know, in the rotation that I can sell or keep, and it doesn't really matter to me, like whatever. But I think I'm settling down.
And then the next time we record, we will hear about Zach's 89 guns that he bought and reconfigured.
Yeah, you know, and I think you saw it on Instagram. I was kind of like playing around with some ideas of like taking the MP5 and putting optics on it. And I ordered all these Oh, that's another disappointment part. I ordered like three MP5 optics mounts. And MP5 optic mounts are a little janky. You know, you have these little standoff ledges on the rails of the receiver, and then it just you buy these receivers that clip over it and then have these little blocks you got to slip in there and then screw it up, and it basically claw grips those ledges, because it
was a platform not designed for optics.
Yeah, probably smartly, and we'll get to that because I kind of circle back to that too. But you know, I ordered these direct mounts that you could put that aim point style T1, you know, kind of mount directly on the mount, and then you could bolt the mount to it, and that was cool. But with the MP5, you have this hooded front sight and that drum rear. So with an absolute co-witness, it's really cluttered. Like, you see the red dot. The red dot's nice, and it might be faster, but you still see the big black hoop of sights and the drum in the back, and it's not like it's up above and giving you clear air to look through. It's pretty darn cluttered. So I was like, oh, that's not good. And then I bought one that had a little Picatinny rail on it, and I thought, oh, this would be good. I can clamp the EOTech onto it. Well, it wasn't long enough to do the EOTech, because the EOTech, the Picatinny like flared out on each end. So I was like, well, I don't know what this is for, but this ain't gonna work. So I did that. And then I saw Midwest Industries makes this kind of neat solution where they have a same kind of claw mount with a full-size pick rail, but then it goes this like rib that goes along the whole top of the receiver, and then it has a forked front that straddles the front hoop. So then it gives you M-lock slots above there, so you could put an optic, a light up front, and then an optic in back. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Well, I did that, and I put the EOTech on it, and it just doesn't look right. It was neat to shoot, like to play with and get the views and everything, and it was really good. But man, the gun just looks goofy with the EOTech on it. I mean, the optic was like twice as wide as the whole receiver, and it just looked like, I don't know, it just looked like you would really hodgepodge something together.
Yeah, but it's not any bigger than those, that gun came out in the 80s, and you remember those first red dots in the 80s were like the size of a mag light or something. They're like gigantic.
Yeah, so I guess I could have done it as a nostalgia build.
Yeah.
But yeah, I looked at it, I tried, and I just like, well, let me put a light on here, do all this stuff, and I just got to the point where I was like, this isn't worth it. You know, I'll just keep this as an iron sight gun, as a play gun. Like if there's something bad where I need a gun, I don't think the MP5 was the first one I'd go get anyways. So, you know, why am I trying to make it into this, defensive or offensive type of gun?
No, it's the gun that you steal from the bad guy.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, wait, if I have it, does that mean I'm the bad guy? So that's me.
All right, so it's been a long time since we recorded last, like 6 months. So, we made a second trip back to Illinois.
Why?
I don't know. The first one we talked about the last episode, and I dragged a moving truck full of junk home. And this time I dragged home a non-running 1999 Chevy Silverado it's almost rusted in half. Like, you wouldn't want to put it on a lift because it would break in half.
And you paid to move this back 1,000 miles home?
Well, here's the deal. So, our Yukon has had low oil pressure for for a long time. And we took a trip all the way to Branson, Missouri with it, and it was pretty good because I put ultra lightweight oil in it. Don't try this at home, kids, but that seemed to actually work well. And then we made 2 Illinois trips with it with low oil pressure. It's not all the time. It's usually okay, like just enough oil pressure.
Well, it's like a Chevy, so you grade on a curve, right?
Right. I mean, you only need, what is it they say, like 5 pounds of pressure per 500 RPMs or something, which, we're close enough.
Round up.
Yeah. Anyway, so this was my dad's truck that he was going to have the gas tank repaired or something, and the mechanic was like, well, yeah, your frame is really bad. They had to get a different truck. And so this has the same drivetrain, though, that our Yukon does. It's 5.3, and it's got relatively low mileage, like 150,000 miles or something. Yeah.
I think it's hilarious that you think 150,000 miles
Well,
mileage.
I mean, this Yukon, I bought this Yukon with like 200 and almost 240,000 miles on it or something. It's got over 200, almost 260 now, I think, something like that. Anyway, so my parents gave me a good deal on it, so I dragged it home. And so when the Yukon does finally die, we'll pull that motor out, put this other one in, and be good for another couple of years.
Let me ask you this. Why didn't you just pull the drivetrain out while you were in Illinois and throw that on a pallet?
Didn't have time. Wow, and I'm lucky I didn't take the time either, because we had the C word. We got COVID on that trip and got back, was sicker than a dog for like 2 weeks. We got the Delta, the good HD variant, apparently, and it did knock me out pretty good for a couple of weeks. So I'm glad I didn't prolong that Illinois trip. That was an unplanned, just quick trip. That we were back for a funeral. Yeah, so it was kind of an in and out thing anyways, and I figure I could drive separate and grab that truck and everything, and it worked out.
Did you drive it back, or no, you said it was non-running, so how did you get it back?
So we drove two vehicles. I drove the diesel with the trailer.
Oh.
Drove my Power Stroke. Yeah.
Okay. So you actually spent even more money because you had to get diesel all the way there.
I know. I had to take that into account. Well, and get this June, I'm driving the diesel back out separate with the trailer to get a non-running tractor this time. The tractor's free, but it does have to be split in half to fix it. And so I'm going to channel all of my Watch Wes Work YouTube viewing, hours of viewing to see if I can do that.
You know a guy that literally his business is to restore old broken tractors. Why don't you just send it to his shop, let him fix it for you?
Oh, come on.
And then bring it over.
He doesn't want to work on a Ford. No.
Well, that's true. Why don't you drop it off at Watch Wes Works' shop on the way over and then have him fix it?
It would be on the way back, yeah.
Yeah.
But then I'd have to make another trip out there, so yeah. And he won't get to, you've seen his projects, he won't get to it for like 6 months.
Wow, okay. So have you ever just considered pulling the engine and rebuilding it and then putting it back in?
That's too scary. No.
Wow. All right. It seems like you take the long way around everyone on a lot of projects.
Oh, I absolutely do. There's so many things that you look back at. You're like, wow, that ain't quite worked out.
Okay. Well, so where did you catch the old COVID at? Was it in Illinois, or do you think you got it in a dirty truck stop along the way?
I'm not sure. I didn't. We did stop at a couple truck stops. We stopped at the world's largest truck stop in Iowa on Interstate 80. We did stop there. So probably, you can pick up a lot of stuff at truck stops. So,
yeah, you better wear your sandals in the shower.
Yeah.
Huh, okay. Well, I'm surprised your vaccine and your masks didn't help you.
Oh my gosh. And Illinois had such a long mandate for masks. It was ridiculous. They just dropped it. And South Dakota, we never had it. And so I wore a mask during the whole pandemic, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 times just to go in Menards, because I could go everywhere else, including Walmart and other places without it. And so it's it's wild to me how different it is. And then I go to a state that is one of the most locked down mandated states, and we get COVID.
Yeah, that's called irony.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you got a bunch more junkers. How many vehicles do you actually own? How many titles do you have at your house?
We're not going. You don't need a title. We don't count the titles. I did. So South Dakota has some weird laws, okay? For one, if you don't pay your sales tax, you can serve prison time. And they like to, like, really, it seems like slap on these, like, these maximum penalties or whatnot. For being such a free state, there's some funny laws. And another funny law that, luckily, I wasn't punished by this law, but if you transfer a vehicle title that you've had more than a year, you know, if you held on to it over a year after buying it, and then transfer it, that's a misdemeanor offense in South Dakota.
Is it because they want their tax money right away?
Well, no. So this truck would be tax free because if it's a vehicle, don't quote me on this, but if it's a vehicle that's like 15 years or older and the value of the vehicle is like $2,500 or less, there's no tax on it.
That's all of yours.
Well,
what are you calling about? That's all of your vehicles.
I mean, it's a lot of mine. Several of them were more than 5,000 or more than 2,500. So yeah, it's just really weird. So next time I'm at doing a transfer, I'm going to ask them, like, have you heard of anyone actually getting a misdemeanor for transferring a title after a year?
Why don't you just not sign a title when you buy one and just have them sign it but not date it?
Well, yeah, the one that I was going to transfer that I decided not to was actually from a guy with a dealer's license, so that wouldn't work. And the other problem is all these states now have these tear-off pieces of the title that the seller sends in to say they sold it.
Oh, really?
Illinois started it a long time ago, and South Dakota started it not too long ago, and there's a lot of states like that now.
I had no idea. That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I was watching, my kid and wife were watching Texas Fish and Cops, whatever that game. It's a game warden show, you know, like one of those cop shows.
Yeah.
They were catching these jet ski people, and the guy's like, "Oh, I just bought it," and then like the game warden's like, "Let me see your title," and blah blah blah. And they're like trying to pin him into this. I guess they have a 45-day window in Texas for sales tax and all that. And all I could just think of is like, God, who are these hall monitors here? Who would want that job? You know,
that's the
just
worst.
Going after people. And I was like, I couldn't do it. And this just feels like names.
Yeah. I remember a video of a game warden or someone, it was these guys that post a bunch of magnet fishing videos. And so they're going to all these different places magnet fishing, and they had a game warden come up to them and seeing what they were doing. And then he was like, well, I'm not sure you can do that here because, they were like, well, is it in the rules? Is it illegal? And he's like, well, I'm not sure. I know they don't let you metal detect here. And the other guy's like, oh, I see. So you're trying to figure out what law we're breaking here.
So magnet fish is literally throwing a magnet in the water and trying to stick something metal to it and pull it back up? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of videos of guys doing this. And like, there's guys that do this in like urban areas, they have like walkways and stuff over water. There's these guys like pulling out like 24 bicycles and stuff or like scooters. And I'm like, how are so many people losing their bikes and scooters in the lake?
Well, I know like a lot of those Lime scooters people throw in the lake because they're sick of them being around the town. Yeah. So wait, you have to have like a rope then, I'm assuming, right? Like this is not like fishing line with a magnet. This is like a bigger operation.
Yeah. It's got a rope. You throw it in and you try to hook onto some treasures that are magnetic.
I've never heard of this. That's interesting.
Really? Oh.
I've never heard of it.
No, I bought one. Reed and I
of course you did.
We were doing it this last year, and I bought a little better one to try this year. Yeah.
Does it have a reel on it, or do you just pull it like hand over fist?
No, it's like throwing a boat anchor out, and you're trying to. Yeah.
Okay. Can you do it off a boat and just like troll with it and see what sticks?
Yeah, you could. I mean, the risk you run on a boat is you're going to get tangled on something and lose it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could.
Interesting. Well, speaking of fishing, you got in here. You did some archery work too.
Well, so the kids have been doing 4-H archery, and 4-H has a really good archery program, and we have a really good indoor archery range that's not too far away. And they did it last year. They're doing it again this year. Our three oldest, they're old enough to do it. And my oldest daughter, she's really taken off with it. She qualified to go to state. And then my other daughter also qualified to go to state. So I guess going to state for 4-H archery, yay. And then Reed, my oldest son, he's like, meh. Like, do I have to do this? I'm like, yeah, making you do it for 2 years.
You're going to be a man.
Anyway, so he was like, really wanting to do something else. So my wife signed it up for 4-H BB gun, or, it's part of the 4-H shooting sports. We start them out with BB guns and pellet guns. They learn like part of the hunter safety and everything, safe handling of firearms and everything. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'll take him sometimes. I don't want to take him all the time. So she took him the first time. I took him the second time. And so, like, the first part is a little classroom session, and they're going over gun safety and stuff. I'm like, oh, this will be good. And the instructor is trying to make a point how, the BB guns aren't to be handled like a toy. It's to be handled like an actual firearm. But then he proceeds to pull out this purple SCCY pistol, and he's like, and this one, just because it's purple, it means it's not a toy either, right? Just because it's a fun color. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's a good point. But then he proceeds to flip it out. He's like, and you don't do this with it, right? And he muzzles everyone. He flips it. He's flipping it out like he's quote unquote playing with it. His finger's not on the trigger. And then he makes some kind of remark like, even though it doesn't have a clip in it, pretty much saying, don't worry, it's not loaded is what he was saying. And, first I wanted to be like, dude, I think those fire without a magazine in them. And second of all, that's not cool at all. But I'm in the way back and everything, seeing this happen, and everything's going on, and then a little bit later on, they're talking about the differences in caliber size of the bullet and cartridges, the basic, stuff like that. And then he's like, this one's a 40 caliber. He's like, oh, this one goes in this gun I showed you earlier. And he proceeds to bring out the SCCY again, completely points it right at my son, and Jeez. Yeah, and shows him like trying to show the end of the barrel and the bullet are the same size or something. I'm like, holy crap. And I was pretty floored. And so it was a real busy night and everything, and I was kind of really too pissed off at the time to talk to the guy. And I was going to talk to him at the end, and that just didn't work out. And I couldn't sleep that night. It kept me up. And then the night before, it's every week it happens, I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. I can't let this go. Like, he's teaching all these kids firearm safety, hunting safety, and he did a couple other things that were not okay either. Most all of it was okay. And so I decided, we're done with this course. We're just not, if this guy has this sloppy of a mindset for firearm safety, even if I talk to him, I feel like I can't trust him through the length of this course and everything. And I'm just so stressed about it, and I can't be taking him every time. Jenny's going to have to take him sometimes. So I came early, and I turned in, one really cool thing about this course is these BB guns, they let the kids take them home and practice at home. They put the kid's name on them. So it's really cool. Kind of gives them a little bit of ownership or whatnot during the course. And then, after the classes, you turn it back in. So I turn the gun and glasses into him, and I'm like, I told the guy, I'm like, you did a couple things last time that made me really uncomfortable. I told him, both incidents with the SCCY, like I just described here. And, he's like, you know what? I'm so sorry. He's like, I've become complacent. It's my fault. And he took ownership of it, and
that's rare.
Right. That is rare. Because I didn't know if she'd go off on this macho, fuddly gun.
Well, he doesn't know that you're a gun guy, right? So he could just assume that you're just like a super panty waist and just
yeah,
being foofy about it.
No clue that I'm a gun guy, or
Did you show him your gun?
Yeah. I got the thing. I've probably carried a gun every day now for the last 8 years or something. It floored me so much that what happened, but he was totally apologetic, totally took ownership of it, that, basically, that he was going to do better. He didn't verbally say that, but he was also like, hey, if you'd like to volunteer, I'd love to have your help. And I'm like, well, I just can't right now. It just doesn't work out for me, but it was really interesting. What
was the demographics of this guy? Is he older guy, younger guy?
He's probably about our age. He has kids our age.
Did he pull the SCCY out of his waistband, or did he have it, is it his gun, or?
No, he had it in a soft case behind him.
Okay.
I don't know. It kind of shocked me too. I didn't see it coming because I thought it was just all BB guns and stuff. And then he pulls this out and he freaking muzzles the whole class with it, and then muzzles Reed later. And
it wasn't retracted and locked or anything?
Nope, was not retracted and locked. I would have not been crazy about it, even if it was, but it might have been a little bit better, quote unquote. But yeah, it was not made to show that it was clear whatsoever. It's just really disappointing. But it also makes me think, gun safety fails like this. How common is this? I was in a concealed carry class in Illinois where the instructor took a Beretta 92 and pointed it at a student, had the student grab it or something like he was an assailant. And
were they shooting content for Instagram?
and pretty much Instagram content creator, and something about how you pull the trigger and it comes apart. Something really.
The movies, that's a movie thing.
The movie
with 92s,
with 92s, and so he did this to just a concealed carry class, like some stranger. And I'm like, what the actual F? And then there was another carry class I was helping out with marketing on, and they, in carry classes, how they pass guns around to let people try out the different kinds of guns and stuff. Well, somebody failed to clear the chamber on a 1911, and a student pulled the trigger, and it shot into the floor, skidded across the floor, and embedded itself in the sole of a shoe of another student.
And you were at this class?
I got there right after it happened because I was helping out, and right after it happened, everyone was like, I'm like, what's going on? Everyone was shell shocked. So I know stupid, derpy, fuddly stuff like this happens all the time in the gun safety instruction, concealed carry instruction, hunting instruction. And it's just really, it stresses me out.
Yeah. Did you tell him that you take offense to his choice in weapon too?
I didn't want to emasculate him anymore. I just felt bad for him at that point.
So after the apology, did you still withdraw Reed from the class?
I did because I just can't, I kind of feel like the right thing to do is would be to volunteer and kind of teach him what I know, and we can both watch each other and for safety stuff. But I don't have any desire to do that. I don't have the time to do that. I don't feel like I'm the person to do that. I went over this back in Illinois too about helping, getting my instructor's permit and helping out and being a role model and being someone to, being that guy to come alongside another guy and help him out. But that's not how I'm wired. I just have no desire to do that. I mean,
you gotta want to be able to do it. You can't force that.
Yeah, I would totally have to force that. That's just not in my personality style. I mean, I'm going to do my best teaching my kids and friends and family that come over here. Sure, yeah, I'm all about teaching, someone as a friend, as a family member, but the whole, stranger classroom, group setting, that's not for me. That's not going to happen.
I'm kind of interested in this BB gun thing. So what kind of BB guns were they? Were they obviously I think they're rifles based on what you're saying, but are they pumped ones? Are they like the pre-charged air compressed ones or what?
Yeah. So they're Daisy BB guns. They're, a single lever pump and
spring loaded then.
And right. But they have good target sights on them, and you can choose between a peep sight or a traditional rifle sight, and Reed chose a peep sight, which I'm glad he did. It's a good setup for what they're shooting. And then they practice shooting prone, they practice shooting sitting, kneeling, is that one? Standing. There's like 4 different positions at practice.
And is this BBs or pellets?
So that's BBs, and then they can also do pellets, and that's also like spring-loaded cocking, big, giant monstrosity of a pellet gun. I think those are Crossmen's.
And those that spring lever, it's young. I mean, young enough kids can cock it easy enough.
No. Dad's got to do it. Even for Reed, Reed did it, but it was super hard.
He's what, 13 now, 12, something like that.
12.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, that was the other thing about it too. All this is an indoor setup, and they had the pellet, the pistol range set up where you were kind of sitting almost over and down range of the rifle line. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's another thing I told him. I'm like, that really needs to change, because when I was helping Reed, I'm like, if I took a step back, I'd have a BB in my ear. You know, it was that close. He's like, well, regulations say you have to have it at blah, blah, blah yards. And I'm like, yeah, but doesn't safety take precedent? And he's like, well, it does, but this is the limitations of our facility. I'm like, well, I said, well, that's one thing. If I did come on board later to help out, that would change. That's not acceptable. Like, safety has to take precedent over everything.
So pistols were forward of the rifle line? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Why can't they just bring the targets
It was left.
To the
I mean, it was to the left, but it was forward.
Why didn't they just bring the target stands further forward to accommodate the pistols and then put the lines at the same level?
Well, because you have to have... 4-H has some really weird rules where the pistol range has to be a further distance than the rifle range.
Oh.
It's really weird. And the other really weird...
That seems backwards.
Yeah. It like, I mean, it's 4-H. Fuddly Dudley probably runs the whole thing, so it's all really not making... You know, this is really for hunter education and not really any practical shooting application as far as pistol goes, I guess. Because they had a table, but they were like, well, you can't use the table as a rest, basically. Like, you can't rest the gun on the table. Like, he was showing us, like, one thing you can do is in teacup in, you know, he didn't say it teacup, but teacup is one, you know, so you could have your back of your hand on the table and teacup the pistol and use the table. But you couldn't rest the actual gun on the table anyway.
But for kids, you think you'd want to have some sort of rest for them so they don't have to support the weight the whole time.
Right. It does, but I guess that's a whole 4-H thing. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Yeah.
Interesting. So this is like an after school. Is this like in a gymnasium type thing, or is this in a...
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's in the evening. And there's, I mean, for having such a limited population where we live, there's tons of these. There's like 2 in that county, 1 in our county. And so there's lots of them out there for 4-H shooting sports.
And how many kids would you say were there at a given time?
Well, there's probably about 10, but that was the second. 10 to 12, not everyone was there. But there was 2 classes that same day. There was a class before as well. So there's quite
I would never have guessed.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't say bad stuff about 4-H as a whole. I mean, they do a ton getting youth into the shooting sports. Now, some of their methods might be, I don't know, strange to us, but they do a ton. That's for sure.
That's cool. Well, too bad it went south on them, but... And the archery, they didn't have any kind of safety concerns with the archery side? Because I think that'd be even scarier with big arrows flying everywhere. Yeah, that's a different place, different people teaching it. I haven't had any issues with, other than one time, the one instructor was like something about like picturing the target as your dad's head or something. Other than that stupid comment, archery has been really good. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I guess that sounds like it's good overall then.
So let's talk about, should we reformat Gun Guy Radio? Should we reformat it to more of what we're currently into? More of kind of what we've, you know, bastardized the show into as a show about guns and cars and tools, homestead stuff, guy stuff. I don't know. Should we Should we make a pivot here and call it something else and not make it all about guns?
I don't even know if anybody listens anymore.
Well, let's pretend someone listens.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we should, if we're going to do something, you need to commit to some sort of time schedule, but weekly is not feasible. Bi-weekly is probably not even that feasible. So you'd have to commit to a monthly show or something like that. But is that even worth it? I do listen to some podcasts that are monthly, and it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But they actually do it every month.
I don't know. So you don't care either way?
I don't care. I mean, we're already doing these things when we do record, regardless of what people expect. So, I mean, I think it's half and half, cars and guns at this point.
Right. I don't know. I just feel I'm still so burned out on gun stuff. Gosh, SHOT Show and seeing people talk about that, and I'm like, oh, it just makes my head hurt. I just have no desire to get that much into the gun world anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the problem right now is it's just so dang expensive. The ammo is, I haven't shot a bunch because in the last, year and a half, whatever, just because it's so hard to get, so expensive. Or it's not even that hard to get anymore, but it's just so expensive. And it's man, this feels like such a waste.
We'll see. Maybe you guys can email us at gunguyradio@gmail.com, switch up the format a little bit, or maybe call it occasional Gun Guy Radio, or I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see what they say.
Patriot Patch Company helps make this episode possible. Check out Patriot Patch and all the awesome stuff we have to offer. Awesome gun cleaning mats, signs, aluminum signs for your man cave or range. Lots of stuff. PatriotPatch.co. And if you need graphic design, artwork design of any kind, check out Ryan Cross at Hunter of Design. If you need, just a business card design or just a business logo or business website, check out Ryan Cross, Hunter of Design. He can hook you up. Yeah, don't forget to check out all the other awesome shows here on the Firearms Radio Network. What's that, Zach?
I was going to say, keep an eye on lonewolfarms.com. We are going to relaunch a new website this summer, and we have some really cool projects coming.
Cool. lonewolfarms.com. Well, thank you, Zach. We'll try to make this a little more frequent.
Happy anniversary. Now, are you going to edit this one before the 10th year anniversary?
I'm going to try.
Wow, they're 10 years. My calendar says 20 years.
Yeah, it might be 20 years. No, I'm going to edit it. We didn't have too many screw-ups, so it shouldn't be too hard.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll see you next time.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.